So we're looking up what a gram stain is. Because we looked it up on the internet, and that was wholly insufficient. Hang on, let me read this other thing.
No, never mind. I had it backwards.
Oops, hang on.
I had it backwards.
It says, in microbiology and bacteriology, gram stain is a method of staining used to classify bacteria, used to classify bacterial species into two large groups. Gram positive, that's what you were talking about a minute ago.
Yeah, gram positive.
And gram negative. The name comes from the Danish bacteriologist Hans Christian Gram. Okay, that makes sense. Who developed the technique in 1884.
Yeah, gram-positive bacteria do not decolorize because they have a thick cell wall and do not permit the alcohol or acetone solvent to penetrate it.
Okay, so you said a minute ago that you had problems when you were doing gram staining because, and I asked you specifically, was it a matter of rinsing too much or rinsing too soon? Right? And your answer was rinsing too much.
Yeah.
So you would stain a sample, right? And what were you using to stain it with?
I don't remember what the name of the compounds were. One was a blue dye. One was
a blue dye of some kind.
One was a blue dye, and the other one is a, what did they say here, was a saffronine red dye.
Okay, so you used a blue and a red dye.
Yes.
And you would stain a sample.
Okay, here's what you do with a gram stain.
Okay, walk me through it.
You grab a colony of bacteria, you streak it on your plate on your slide. You take your little heat and you just barely hit it with the heat, so you're fixing the bacteria to your slide. You take it over.
Wait. Heat? You had like a little, like a Bunsen burner?
Yeah, and you just take your slide and you just barely
You put some heat on it?
Yeah, and what that'll do is it'll dry it up and it'll fix the bacteria to the slide.
Oh, so you had to be really skilled, not too much heat?
Yes.
Okay.
Too much heat, they'll burst.
So you could easily fuck that up?
Yeah, you could easily burst all your cells.
Okay. Go ahead.
So you just barely do.
Go on.
And then once your sample is fixed to the slide, you add your blue dye. You let it sit for 1 minute. You take your acetone or alcohol. I think we used alcohol. And you rinse your sample until you don't see any more blue dye running. Running,
as in like washing, you can see it washing away.
As you wash, you can see the blue dye disappearing.
Okay.
And when you're running clear, you're done. And then you put your red dye on it. You let it sit for a minute. And then you do the same thing. You rinse it until you don't see any red coming off of it.
Okay.
And then you put something else on it, but damn, I can't remember what it was. And that sat for a minute. And then you looked at it.
But there were rinsing procedures because you mentioned you can rinse too much or too soon. Yes.
Well, not basically too soon.
Okay, so let's back up for just a second. So when you do the blue stain, and I'm not going to question you as to what specifically that stain was. So you let it sit for a minute, right? Specifically a time frame.
Yeah. You have a timer.
And then you rinse it with, what are we rinsing with?
Either alcohol or acetone.
So you rinse with alcohol.
Yes.
Wouldn't that dehydrate the cells that you're about to look at?
I don't know, honey.
Okay, so you rinse with alcohol.
Or acetone.
As a solvent agent to rinse.
Yes.
And then you said that you can rinse too much.
Sometimes you can rinse too much, and sometimes you will penetrate that cell wall and rinse some of that dye out.
Okay.
Because it has happened. I have had looked at slides that some stayed blue and some were pink, and that's not the way it should be because it's all the same bacteria.
Okay. All right. So far to me, it sounds like there's multiple stages in the process, multiple places where you can fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
You can overheat it. You can.
That's why you have to do a lot of gram stains to get to know what you're doing. And I did a lot of fucking gram stains.
Okay. All right. I'm going to pause this for a second. We're going to gather our thoughts, and then we're going to continue on. Say that again.
Is there other the gram stain is just your preliminary test. After that, there's a bunch of other tests that you can do to figure out what the bacteria.
So the main purpose of a gram stain is to what?
Limit the amount of bacteria that it can be, and determine
that
what
it can't.
What it can be, and determine what test you're going to go forward with.
So certain bacteria will stain more than others. Is that the reason?
No, certain bacteria have a thicker cell wall that will absorb the blue stain, but it will not.
Well, that's
so because gram-positive bacteria do not decolorize because they have thick cell walls that do not permit the alcohol or acetone solvent to penetrate.
And by the way, this is the book we're looking at here. This is college level.
I need my micro book.
This is her old college book. She walked away for a second, but one of the things I wanted to get to was previously, before I started recording, we were talking about, she had mentioned that you can't tell the difference between certain bacteria, like for instance, E. coli and cholera. Like visually under the microscope, you can't tell the difference. That's why we got into the subject of gram stain. So when she comes back, I'll bring that up and we'll clarify. All right, she just went downstairs and found another old college book.
I'm pretty sure I gave it to you. You probably have it somewhere.
Which one? What?
Microbiology book.
Microbiology? I might have another stack of books somewhere else. Hang on.
That's what I'm saying.
So the reason we started this conversation is because we were talking about you can't tell the difference between certain bacteria. Like you mentioned E. coli and cholera, for instance. You can't tell the difference visually, right?
I can't. Now, I don't know if somebody that works with both that bacteria all the time, they may be able to see a subtle difference, but just to look at a bacteria, you're not going to know what it is. You're not going to be able to distinguish exactly what bacteria it is just by looking at it.
We had mentioned that there were only a couple of types of bacteria of what you said, rod-shaped and...
Actually, there's three. There's Spirillum. Spirillum. My glasses. There. I've never seen those. I've only seen these. I've never seen that one.
Never seen that one. But you've seen the other two.
Yeah, I've seen both of these multiple times.
But we were talking about you can't tell the difference visually between like an E. coli and a cholera.
You cannot identify what bacteria it is just by looking at it on a slide.
Are there some bacteria that you can do that with?
Not that I know of.
Because I actually follow on YouTube, there's a couple of channels. There's 2 or 3 that I follow that are microbiologists, and they have very high-tech, microscopes.
Well, if you can...
and they do all these videos all the time, and they say, "Tell me what you want me to see," and here we are looking at blood, and here we are looking at, mint sauce versus bacteria, or bleach versus bacteria, alcohol.
Okay.
So there's all these videos of all these guys using all these microscopes.
Okay.
and they're doing all kind of bacteria. So while I'm watching these videos, they are able to identify the bacteria. Is the point I'm trying to make?
Just by looking at it?
Oh yeah, they can say this is a spirilium, this is a bacillic, blah blah blah, and I hear these words that these guys are uttering, and I don't remember specifically, right? This is a bacillus, blah blah blah, and this is a spirillus, whatever, and they have all these technical words. I could show you the videos.
Did they culture those bacteria?
No, they're saying, look, I've been cultivating. He says, all right. The video starts with, I've got I take some pond water. He said, here's some pond water that I had sitting in the window for a week or a month.
Okay.
And he takes a pipette,
and
he's got gloves, and he's got a sterile pipette.
I get it, and he puts it on a plate.
Puts it on a plate, puts it in a microscope, and he's got video. His microscope takes pictures and video, and you can see the thing swimming around, and he zooms in, and he goes, this is this, and this is that, and this is this, and this is that, and he names them. He goes, you can see a bunch of these, and these are the rods, and you can see a bunch of those, and that's this, and you can see an amoeba over there, and you can see this and that, and he names them. He fucking knows what he's looking at.
Is he saying specific Spirilia?
Yes.
Like a specific 2 or 3 name?
Yeah, I'll show you the guy.
Then he obviously works with it enough, or he has a more powerful microscope where he can really look at finer details of each bacteria.
I'm just saying that there are at least there are some.
Can I finish what I'm saying?
Go ahead. Sorry.
When I look under my scope, this is what I see. He may have a more powerful microscope, which will show more detail to the bacteria, and that may be how he's identifying them, because he's worked with enough bacteria, has seen enough bacteria that he can, if he looks closer at it and sees certain characteristics, he can tell you what it is. This is what I see. I see round and I see rods, and I don't see any detail.
Okay.
Because I'm using a regular bright field, ordinary lab microscope.
Okay.
You're saying he's using high powered. They probably get a lot closer in on it, and you could probably even see inside it.
Well, do you want to take like 30 seconds?
No, because it's late and I want to go lay down.
Well, okay. Because I could literally find it in 30 seconds. I'm subscribed to it.
I don't care.
I'll show you.
I don't care. I want to go lay down. I'm tired of this.
Okay. Okay.
Fucking science.
Fucking science.
Damn it.
All right.